So I finally have a foot model, and I'm going to show why I talk about the arch of the right foot so much. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the upper body. I just want to show today about the foot. So when your foot hits the ground, so if you can see this arch, when you in that neutral position, let's just say you're standing there, you have an arch, your foot just made contact with the ground. That is a supinated position, right? That foot hit the ground, that heel hit the ground in a supinated position, and there you go, okay? This is a right foot, and we're talking about the right foot today. That's a supinated position. What should happen, see this part here? That's the medial arch. After heel strike, this tibia should start to, the lower leg should start to internally rotate, and so your momentum is coming forward over the right foot. Your leg is moving forward, your body weight is moving forward. Notice what happens. That arch comes down. So as the tibia, the lower leg, starts to move forward into dorsiflexion, that's dorsiflexion, and internal rotation, the heel starts to evert, so the heel, the calcaneus, everts. You see this is the inside. See how the weight starts to shift towards the left? This would be the left, okay? So we got, this is pronation of the right foot. You have to get pronation of the right foot. Notice, I don't know, hopefully you can see it here. A supinated foot, which is normal at heel strike, is a narrow foot. Watch what happens. At pronation, you'll see that it widens. Tight, relaxed. Tight, relaxed, and then as you step forward through the big toe, it resupinates, tightens, so you can push through with an effective lever for the big toe. If the right foot is pronated and it's relaxed, that means it's not as rigid, it's not as strong lever, so you can't really push through effectively. That's not usually what happens on the right side. On the right side, you get that heel strike. Over time, because of this left AIC pattern, because the pelvis is oriented to the right, our weight tends to shift to the outside of the right foot. And anyone I work with, the vast majority, I'll say 80% of people that I work with, if you ask them where they feel their weight on the right foot, they'll feel it towards the heel and outside, which means they're bearing their weight on the outside. That becomes problematic when their brain or their foot stops, when the foot stops pronating, or their brain can't sense that it's occurring because it still stays too supinated. When that arch doesn't come down and can't feel the ground or something, this foot can't relax. That means your weight can't start to shift to the left. You will stay on the right. These people are walking with their weight on the outside of their right foot. When they push through, they're not pushing through their big toe because they never got pronation to occur. Because their foot stays supinated and rigid the entire time, they start to push off through maybe their second toe or their third toe, but not their big toe. And they will push forward, but it's not happening off the big toe. Now, when a foot is too supinated for too long, that right toe is going to search, and you start to get a gap between the big toe and the second toe because it's searching for the ground. All right, that's just a common observation. If you cannot pronate your right foot, see this tibia going to the left, your weight cannot start to shift to the left. Your glute will not turn on to push you to the left. You cannot get into the left leg. You cannot sit into your left hip. You can't establish left AFIR. You can't stabilize on your left side because you never actually get to your left side. And when you do get to your left side, if you do, because the pelvis never fully orients to the left, you're doing it in compensation. So you're using hip flexors, lower back, things like that, right? Again, I just want to stick with the foot. So, quite often in that left AIC pattern, when the pelvis is oriented to the right, people feel their weight on the outside of their right foot. There is a good chance, if their pelvis is testing in a left AIC, I know that means by definition, they are not pronating the right foot. Otherwise, the pelvis wouldn't be in a left AIC pattern, it would be neutral. So what you need to do is get them to pronate. They need to, their brain needs to recognize pronation. Incrementally, over time, for many years, their pronation, ability to pronate gets less and less and less because they're in a pattern until you no longer pronate. So it's not like it happens, overnight. It's a gradual process, and then the lack of pronation becomes your brain's normal. Because you're not doing it, your brain says, all right, well, I'm not pronating, so that's not going to be the normal foot mechanic. And your brain literally forgets how to pronate. The problem is that a lot of times when people sense this occurring, or they don't feel right on their shoes anymore, or they don't feel right anymore, they feel like they're not in contact with the ground anymore, they decide to wear less. They go with a thinner shoe or with less arch support because it makes them feel like they're closer, more connected to the ground. The problem is, here's an insole. Until your brain can sense something touching this arch, it will not relax the right side of the body. Because if you can't pronate your right foot, you have to simulate pronation by bringing the ground, which is the insole, up to the foot so your brain can sense that something is touching the insole or something is touching the arch, and now you can shift to the left and the right side can relax. If you go in the opposite direction, I'm not against minimalist shoe wear for someone who's not in pain, but for someone who is in pain, I wouldn't advise getting minimalist or flat shoe wear because they can't pronate. I know they can't because their pelvis test is telling me they can't. They wouldn't be in a pattern if they could pronate on the right foot. They wouldn't be right weight bearing 24/7 if this foot actually could pronate. So what you need, or what they need, is they need to bring something up to the arch. So the brain can sense the arch is touching something, finally relax the right side so that you can shift to the left. If the right side never lets go, you can't shift to the left. So that's why you bring the floor up via a shoe, an insole, so that your foot can feel, your brain can sense something underneath the arch of the right foot. Sometimes you might have to put a little lateral shoe wedge to boost up the outside of the foot to keep them on the insole a little bit better so you don't lose that sense of pronation again. Sometimes people need an orthotic. People with really high arches, they need something to feel. Otherwise, they're going to stay in a supinated position and they will not be able to dorsiflex. They will lose, and that will now throw off all their pelvic mechanics. Their rib cage mechanics their rib cage won't rotate. Their neck is going to tighten up. They might start to sense the teeth on the right side a little bit more, feeling too much right molar, using too much right eye, not using the left peripheral vision. This stuff happens. It's because they cannot shift to the left, and if you can't pronate your right foot, you cannot shift to the left. So, in summation, you need to go heel strike, which is supination, and then as your weight transfers forward, you need to move into pronation. Pronation is where relaxation occurs during the gait cycle. The foot relaxes, and it can respond to different terrain. But more importantly, the right side gets to relax and release. The neck releases, the chest releases, the pelvis starts to orient to the left, and you can finally get to the left side. And that's why this is so important, that people are wearing something underneath their feet while they're in pain. I'm not saying a month, I'm not saying 3 months from now, 4 months from now. Sometimes you can go barefoot, no problem. But a lot of people, or wear whatever shoes you want. But a lot of people, when they're in pain, this lack of pronation or lack of pronation sense, the brain can't sense it occurring, so it doesn't occur. So the right side never relaxes. That is really, really important for people, especially in the beginning. If they are not wearing, they could do these exercises all day long. But if they get upright and their brain cannot sense something underneath that right arch, there is no signal for your brain to tell the right side of the body to relax, to activate the right glute and push you to the left. That is why pronation of the right foot is so important. And yes, I know some people are going to say, but I feel my weight on the inside of the foot, I already feel it there. Well, there's a lot of variations. I'm saying the majority of people will feel it like this, and that's why pronation of the right foot and sensing the arch of your right foot while doing PRI techniques is so important.